Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or whatever time this stream is finding you. Welcome to another episode of Recover the Ball. This is your grateful and gracious host, Cowboy Chris. And as you all know, here at Recover the Ball, this is where we meet at the intersection of healing, hope, and having a good time. This is where we want to combine our passion with our purpose so we can live out our vision, purpose, and dreams. And as you know, the Recover the Ball airs the second and fourth Monday of every month, and we're back with another episode. And as always, we talk about our passion. As you all know, my passion is the Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to give you updates and takes about, my team, America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. And as always, we talk about recovery, and that's recovery from illness, from loss, from addiction. And most importantly, we want people to recover their vision, their purpose, and their dreams. And so today I have another outstanding guest with me. I'd like to welcome to Recover the Ball, Lieutenant Joe. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, Chris. How are you, brother?
I'm doing real good. I'm so glad to have you on.
Thank you.
And before we get into our conversation, I always like to update our listeners with, the latest what's going on with the Cowboys. And I know, we're going to let them know who your squad is in just a second. But as always, I want to give our viewers the updates and takes with the Cowboys and what's going on. And so, spring is in the air, ladies and gentlemen, and we are at the OTAs, which is the off-season training. What is it? OTAs, off. I can't even remember what it is. It's the off season where they get together, the veterans and the veterans and the rookies get together, and they start doing their installs and start practicing. So, we're getting a little bit closer. It's getting exciting. We're in June. We're a couple months away from getting some real football action. But what's been going on in the news is, some of the highlights that's been coming out of the OTAs is Trey Lance is looking good, who's our backup quarterback, who is the reason we didn't have a fourth round pick. So I'm really excited about that. We put a big investment in that, so you definitely want to hear about that fourth rounder coming along. So maybe he could be the backup now, and if not, maybe he could be leveraged to trade later on if we, go ahead and pay Dak the money that we're supposed to pay him. But that's another conversation we get to have. And what I'm also hearing coming out of camp is also the rookies are looking really good. Our second round pick, Marshawn Nealon, I hear is just tearing it up. So I'm real excited to see what this new Zimmer defense is going to look like. So I'm real excited about that. And also, what's going on in the mainstream, they want to talk about a lot of the contract holds-outs. And, with Michael Parsons not being there, CeeDee Lamb, don't get caught up into that, family. Everybody, we move the needle, we move the dial, so they're going to try to find something to talk about. And just so they're going to talk about the Cowboys. So I'm not worried about that. I know CD's going to be signed. I know Dak's going to be signed. I know Mike is going to be signed because Jerry, he don't pitch too many pennies when it comes to spending on his Cowboys and whatnot. And we got a lot of hope also because Justin Jefferson, he just got signed, so he's the best in the league, as they want to say, even though CeeDee Lamb's numbers are just as comparable. So now that the tea leaves have begun to fall, like Jerry said, we should probably get him signed and get him hooked up too. And I really like the way that CD has been playing it. It's one thing is you got to know your value, ladies and gentlemen. I always say that football is a reflection of life. So when I'm looking at what's going on with the Cowboys, I try to think about, how does that theme resonate in my life? And with CD holding out, and I was sitting there thinking, I said, man, it must be hard. You want to be there with the team. You want to be there with your squad, be a leader and show them on. But at the same time, this is big business. Sometimes you gotta know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And he has a lot of leverage right now. So I don't blame the brother trying to get every penny he can get so that, he can create that generational wealth that we all striving to get. And so, so when I was thinking about that and I looked at that, I was like, man, you got to know your value. No matter what job you have or what position you are in life, know what your value is. And if you don't know what it is, you have to create value for yourself. How can you create it? Being disciplined, being confident, steadfast, and focused on whatever your vision, purpose, and dream is so that you can create the value that you want to create as you move forward in life. And so with that said, that's Cowboy Chris's update and takes for this episode. And so now I'd like to see how our guest creates value for themselves. Welcome, Lieutenant Joe, as you like to be called.
Thank you, Chris.
Welcome to the show.
Yes.
And as I always start out, I like to ask folks, you see me raving about my Cowboys.
I see.
So do you have a favorite squad? Do you have a favorite team?
Yes, of course I do. So I am a Commanders fan.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And it stems back from when I was a kid. I was a Redskins fan.
Got you.
And I was thinking about our earlier conversation. I was saying that I would have to do some research on stats and all of that because I don't really keep up with that anymore. I did when I was a younger guy.
Yeah.
But now it's more or less I still root for my squad, and we've had some tumultuous years of recent, but we have a lot of hope.
Yeah, y'all definitely got some hope now.
We have some hope.
You got a new quarterback, got a new coach.
Quarterback, new coach.
Yeah, springs in the air for the Commanders. New owner. Yeah,
which is the most. Yes. That was the most critical point right there. Was the ownership, because I believe a lot of what we were experiencing starts at the top and it filters down. Right.
Yeah.
And you can hear stories from players from all through the league, all through those years, and they were not happy.
Yeah.
With the ownership. So a lot of hope is in the air right now.
I see it. I can't say I was excited for you. You did want a new ownership because, politically it wasn't really looking too good, just, how things were shaking out. But you all had one of your owners is one of my idols in Magic Johnson. And so it's like, wherever he goes, I follow him. I like how he was my favorite basketball player when I was coming up.
Yes.
And just to see his business acumen and how he's come along to now, owning the team right in my hometown and whatnot. Even though I don't root for the team, I always root for Magic and whatnot.
You will be soon. You will. But yes, I appreciate that.
Indeed. So what are some of your fondest memories for rooting for the Commanders?
Oh, man. Like I said, it goes back, right? I started really with Sonny Jurgensen and that group. Okay. And watching them come up in Ripken, and even though
was that the Over the Hill game?
Yeah, we had the Over the Hill game. We had the Hogs.
The Hogs, right.
Larry Brown was the running back. He was a running horse. You had Charlie Taylor on the wide out, and so all of those are the guys that I really grew up with. Okay. And then as the years went on, I followed some. I even wanted to try out for the Redskins at one point because I played a little ball, and but I never got to that point.
Gotcha.
I was in a I guess you could say a under-league training camp or something like that. But I had a lot of I followed them for quite a while, and now it's just like, all right, hoping they win. And
I know how it is being a fan. You sitting there, you just all you have, because you don't know what they're doing in the background, but you're always rooting them on, and it's a nice way. And I always growing up, it was always something that brought my family together. So sometimes it was just those were some of my biggest memories, even though I was a Cowboy fan, and it was a lot of teasing going on, but. A lot of it was a lot of good times behind all the teasing and whatnot, because it was one of the few times on Sunday we could maybe let go of the stress of the week or stresses that we were having and just sit down and watch the game and whatnot. So that's kind of how I became so passionate about them, and to this day I just been rooting them on. Like I was telling you last year, I got to go down to Texas for the first time and had that experience and whatnot, and it just inspired me to do some other traveling actually and whatnot. I said I could check the Cowboys off my bucket list, even though I want to go back again and see if I can bring Karen down there with me this year and whatnot, so we can go check out our Cowboys.
Yeah.
Indeed, but that's definitely one of my. So what are some of the other passions that you're into?
So right now, as my life has transitioned, my focus is more about empowering men. And having them understand their value, right?
Nice.
Because that's something that's really we struggle with, and we have a lot of outside influences that make us struggle with those things, and we don't even realize it.
Yes.
So just being able to share with them some of the things that I've learned over the years, and just to be able to let them know that they're more important than they think they are. Yes, they have more influence, more power than they know they do.
Knowing your value.
Knowing your value. And that was I like how you mentioned that in the beginning, because it was a good segue into what
I didn't even know that's what you were going to bring up. But,
right, I didn't either.
Indeed.
And it just rolled right into the passion that I've had for several years now.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is I grew up not fit with low self-esteem.
Oh man.
And not feeling good enough, and not feeling. I had all of these low self-images of myself.
Right.
And so now that, and I can't say that I'm fully evolve from that, right?
Yes, you know, one day at a time. It's a day-by-day process.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. No doubt.
So I'm not fully evolved from it, but I do recognize the power that God has given me.
Indeed.
And you know, trying to harness that and help other people see exactly who they are in His eyes.
And that's amazing. You know, as you were sharing that, it made me think about, you know, just even my own journey and how same struggles. You know, I grew up here in the DMV as well, and just remembering, you know, and it was funny because when I remember I got a little bit older and I was working with the Census Bureau, and a good friend of mine, we were just, you know, just talking, and when I reflected back, he was like, he said, it seemed like you're depressed. And I wasn't even, you know, I thought depressed meant, you know, I had to be, you know, under the blanket, you know, how they show it on the TV and things like that. But, you know, depression and low self-esteem can manifest in so many ways.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like you really have to do that inventory and deep dive in yourself to, you know, to see how, you know, see how it is manifesting in yourself and whatnot. So one of the things that, you know, I found fascinating about your journey is that you're a retired firefighter.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So I was a Washington, D.C. firefighter for 14 years.
Wow.
And I was retired on disability because of an injury I sustained while firefighting.
Okay.
And that happened in Memorial Day weekend, 1999. So we're really celebrating the 25th anniversary of that incident, of that fire.
Okay.
And that particular fire, we ended up losing two firefighters that were fighting that fire with me were killed as a result of the intensity of the fire and the heat. And so on the other side of it, you know, I sustained a lot of injury as a result of that. I have second and third degree burns over the majority of my body, 65% of my body, which, you know, a lot of times you can't really tell unless I was to take my clothes off, my short sleeves or something like that. And so that journey from being a firefighter, right, going out and being the person that does the rescue.
Okay.
And then
so that was your position on the team, was to
So I was on the engine company. So the fire department is broken up into many different parts. But you have an engine company; those are the guys with the hose in the water. Okay. You have the truck company; those are the guys with the ladders, and they do ventilation. Okay. You have a rescue squad; those are the guys. Those are the ones that go and do search and rescue to pull survivors out. So, you know, we have a lot of different departments within the department. Okay. So I was an engine man.
But you all have to work as a team.
We work as a team. You have to, because everybody has a specific job, and each job is dependent on the other. Right. So
that's fascinating, because, you know, as a kid, you grow up. You say, I want to be a firefighter. All you know is just the pictures that they show you. But just hearing the intricacies of it, it's like it's fascinating, indeed.
It is a fascinating, very rewarding job, even though it's not necessarily one of those jobs where you get a lot of hoorahs and thank yous behind it. Right. But just knowing that the men and women that are on the department sacrifice their lives every day, because they just never know if they're ever going to come back. Right. So they go to help survive, help someone else survive, and that's a calling that you can't really explain. You know, I had a friend used to say, and he was actually the guy that got me, that introduced me to the fire department. He used to say that firefighters are special people. Where rats and roaches run out of the building, we're running in. So it takes a certain mentality.
I hear you. It takes courage, and like as you say, it's not even everybody's trying to run out of the building, but to have the mindset of that. No, I'm going in. But I imagine it's a lot of education behind it. How fire is. You learn how fire moves, how it works, and things like that. That I imagine you had to go through before even, being able to, go inside the building and whatnot. So how did you choose that department versus, say, maybe the latter, or was it chosen for you?
That was chosen for me. At the time. Right. You have a group of guys, women that go through the training academy, and then they fill the positions that are open on the department in the different companies. So I'm sure there's a reason why they select certain people for certain positions. Like I know some of the taller guys would almost always go to the truck companies.
Okay.
You know, because they needed that type. One, the engine companies, it's a lot of times you're going to confined spaces.
Okay.
And the truck companies have the ladders, and you know, ladders are heavy, so you want, you know, the bigger, stronger guys to actually do that. Okay. Although I'm not taking it from any women that's on the truck. Don't get me wrong. I know that you're doing your job, and I know you can handle it. I know you can. I'm just saying in the context of how they assign
how they assign it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's fascinating. So in '99 is when after you had the injury on the job, is that when you retired, or was it some time thereafter?
It was time after. So I worked really hard to get back to the job.
Okay.
Right. Because that's what I really loved doing. Mm-hmm. And so I was a very competitive person anyway.
Okay.
So when I got injured, I really didn't know how badly I was injured until I was in ICU for 2 months.
Yeah.
And then the step
Sound like
down.
A man, you know. I'm all right.
I'm all right.
Just stuff, you know
trust. I can and I would have firefighters tell me how they would come to visit me, and I was bandaged from head to toe, and I didn't know. I had tubes down my throat. I couldn't talk. I had tubes in my nose to feed me. I had IVs in my arms to, you know, keep fluids going.
Right.
The whole time I thought I was smiling at people. The whole time I thought I was talking to them, and I didn't realize that they couldn't hear me.
Okay.
So one of the things that I did was gave a thumbs up.
Okay.
To let them know that I was okay.
Right.
But my thumbs up was really for them to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, it translated as though.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Man, that's fascinating. Indeed. So then after, so you tried to, so you were saying you did come back. How long after the injury were you able to go back and perform some of those duties?
So it was approximately almost a year and 6 months to the day.
Okay.
So I was injured on May 30th, 1999.
Okay.
I came back to work in, I want to say October of 2000.
Okay.
So I came back with the intention to go back to firefighting because that's what I did. That's what I wanted to do.
Right.
But I ended up at the training academy, and the doctors were saying that because of the injuries that I had sustained to my body, I couldn't go back to firefighting. One, because the skin grafts that I received, they don't breathe.
Okay.
And I don't have the nerve endings that you normally have, so I wouldn't be able to, one, regulate the body temperature.
Wow.
And then I wouldn't recognize that I was being burned if the temperature rose.
That
right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
So they were, saying that I wouldn't go back. In my mind, I was going back to firefighting.
Right.
I was going to prove them wrong. But yes, it was about a year and a half to the date. And I actually got back to work, and I was at the training academy.
Okay, nice. So, well, dang, it's funny because I'm thinking, relating it to football as always and whatnot. When you people on the side, and it's like takes them a long time to get back. But, when you had that focus and that vision, it's like, hey, this is what I want to do. You had the drive and the will within you to say, okay, this is what this gets to happen. No matter what. And it took, them to tell you not to do it before you could really settle down and whatnot. So they tell you that you can't really go back to doing what you were doing. How did you pivot?
It wasn't easy.
Okay.
It wasn't an easy pivot, but once I got there and I started training firefighters, and it gave me a different perspective.
Okay.
Right, of the importance of it.
Right.
And so I was able to instill in them or explain to them what I went through and the importance of their training and making sure that they paid attention to some of the small nuances that we were taking them through that normally you would just kind of, say, oh, this is something that I have to do and just to get out. But understanding how this is an actual life-saving technique that you can use. And so when I was in that fire and when the temperature rose, so I didn't mention that when we were there, when we entered the building, it was approximately like 500 or 600 degrees.
Wow.
So our gear is very well manufactured to be able to handle that heat.
Okay.
At the time, I think our gear was rated at 1,200 degrees.
Oh wow. Okay.
So, but
so you don't necessarily feel, is it cooling inside the?
No, there's no cooling.
There's
man.
no cooling.
There's
It's
no,
just,
no,
okay.
it's heat.
It's just protecting you from the fire.
It's protecting you from all of the heat, but it's hot.
Okay,
you still feel the heat.
Okay.
But once we entered the room where we were looking for the fire, we got past the actual source of it, and it came up from behind us, and the temperature rose from 500 to 1,500 degrees.
Oh wow!
And it was in a matter of 2 seconds, and so it was very rapid. We didn't have a lot of time to respond to it, and so the gear protected us for a period of time, but it's fire retardant.
Okay.
It's heat retardant. It's not resistant. It doesn't mean that it's going to keep you from burning.
That's a distinction.
It's going to slow it down.
It retards it, but it don't resist it. Okay,
yes,
gotcha.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
So, so that's what, allowed us to sustain for as long as we did. My partner and I, Lou Matthews, unfortunately, he ended up staying in that environment for like 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so his survival rate deteriorated really fast.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't even know how we got there. I think I was just kind of going back to it just to, talk about the temperature of the room and how quickly it happened.
I'd asked you how, did it actually protect you from the fire itself? It wasn't cooling inside. He's like, no, ain't no portable AC in there.
There is no portable AC. Yeah.
I hear you. Mm-hmm. So now when you were teaching when you began to teach some of the other, what do they call them, recruits?
Recruits. Yes.
Okay. Well, were you able to, I guess, in terms of, did you do a lot of speaking to other firefighters that have gone through the same process that you did, like in terms of having to heal from burning? Were you able to communicate your story to some of?
So, yes, but most firefighters, we have this cowboy mentality, right? No pun intended.
No pun intended, right?
But we have this cowboy mentality where being burned at a fire is a badge of honor.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And but depending on the degree, depending on the surface, how much surface is burned, that determines your recovery time and things like that.
Okay.
So there's firefighters that have been burned.
Okay.
I'm not the only one, and I won't be the last one, I know.
Yeah.
But the extent of the injury is what makes mine unique, because most people at that time with that amount of surface burn wouldn't survive.
Okay.
So they gave me 5% chance to survive.
Oh, wow.
And that was for the first month that I was in the hospital. And then the second month I was at 50% chance.
Okay.
All
right, well, I like those better than where you started.
Yeah. It was closer, but I tell you what, it put my family through a lot.
Okay. I can imagine.
It put my family. They were on edge the whole time. So, but yes, but that's where that was. And then actually training firefighters. You mentioned do I have a chance to talk to other firefighters? Yes, when the opportunity comes about. Yeah. And then also other burn survivors. Right?
Burn survivors. Yeah, that's what I was more so thinking about.
Yes.
Yeah, other burn survivors, because I imagine, the mental challenge that you go through that healing process, through that recovery process, can be tough and whatnot. And, and like you said, it's hard, and everybody's recovering. Your family's recovering with you, because imagine seeing you in that state, their mental state, they, having support for them as well.
Absolutely.
Imagine, and imagine that I would think that the fire department, they have a lot of resources for you all in that vein, considering it's such a high risk job.
They have it. They're getting better.
They're getting better.
They're getting better at that.
Okay.
So at the time, a lot of those resources weren't available, and then the ones that were, it was more of a stigma if you got involved with it,
Yeah. I can imagine.
Cowboy mentality,
man. Time period too. Like now, mental health and getting support is, more fashionable, or more, especially people of color are getting more assistance in that vein. Whereas back then, it almost seemed like a sign of weakness if you were to, tap into some resource like that. So
right, absolutely.
Yeah, so you probably had to, really be suffering for you to say, okay, I guess I'll go ahead and, take the help now and whatnot.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, again, a lot of people still don't use the resources, and you still have a higher rate of suicide on fire department and police department as well, because there are certain things about the job that really take a toll on you emotionally. Certain things about the job always express to people that PTSD is real.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And if you don't recognize it, it can really stifle you from growing,
No doubt.
stifle you from moving forward.
Yep.
And so that's a real thing.
It's like you can't run from your past until you deal with it, because it's going to be there, haunting at many times and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But I remember us having a conversation before, and I found the stats so interesting that you were saying from the 1800s till now for the DC Fire Department, they only had lost 101, what was it, 101 lives?
Yes.
Only 101 lives. Now, you don't want the loss of any life, but I was thinking from the 1800s till now to only have lost 101 people, it really shows that, there's a lot of safety and precaution and training, and like you all really know what you're doing. The fact that, you're not losing life at, a rapid pace like you might in other circumstances and whatnot.
Alarming rate. So. Yeah. 101, I won't say only, right?
Okay.
I won't say only, because the families of those folks are like, that's not an only stat. That is my only. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yes, we have been fortunate over the years that more firefighters haven't succumbed to injury or death because of the job. But anyone that you lose is traumatic.
Indeed.
And nationally, it's over the years, we're still at around 100 firefighters every year that we lose. Regardless of the technology, regardless of the training, regardless of the awareness, it still is an unforgivable number.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. But my salute. My hats off to you for having the courage to, be in such a profession and, having that mind state and coming to share Recover the Ball. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Yes, sir.
And then when we come back, as always, we'll get into the recovery side of things. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for always tuning in to Recover the Ball with Cowboy Chris. We'll be back in just a minute. Back to new cadence. Here we go. That's going viral, the whole nine. So you're now rocking with Cowboy Chris and Recover the Ball, where we're going to be talking football. We're going to talk recovery and being at that intersection of healing, hope, and having a good time, folks. I want you to give me 15 minutes and then give me the last 15 minutes and then check out at least 3 episodes, and I'm sure you'll be convinced that this is the show that you want to rock with great Cowboys content. We're going to be talking recovery, we're going to be talking life, because, in life, we're trying to not only, root on our teams, and we're not only talking about recovery from substance abuse, we're talking about recovery. There's a lot of people out there trying to recover their dreams, trying to recover that hope, trying to recover that purpose. And we're going to do that here on Recover the Ball with Cowboy Chris. I'm going to have great guests, like my great guest I have here now, Karen. She's going to rock with me, and we're going to be doing great things here at Recover the Ball with Cowboy Chris. Tune in. Welcome back to the second segment of Recover the Ball with Cowboy Chris. And as always, in our second segment, we hop into the recovery side of things. We're here with Lieutenant Joe, who's telling his phenomenal story of being a DC firefighter. And as you know, here at Recover the Ball, we air every second and fourth Monday of the month. And I've been appreciating all the love and support that's been coming my way for this show. And I want you to keep giving me the feedback, keep making the comments, and we just keep getting better. So I want this to grow, because as you know, this is the place where we meet at the intersection of healing, hope, and having a good time, y'all. And today we're talking with Lieutenant Joe about his passion and his purpose in life. And as always, on the recovery side, Lieutenant, we always talk about, whether it's recovery from addiction, that's, my professional background, or we're talking about recovery from illness and injury, like we were sharing your story in the first segment, but then we also talk about recovering our vision, our purpose, and our dreams. And one of the conversations we were having was one of the things that you're starting to get into is public speaking and motivational speaking. And so from your recovery journey, what sparked you to have the thought to say, okay, I want to see how many more lives I can touch?
That's a great question. And so for years, for the last 20 years, 25 years actually, I have been sharing my story.
Okay. mainly
been sharing it with mainly firefighters and fire organizations.
Okay.
Probably, I would say almost 14 years ago now.
You're good. Peer support. It's funny you said it, because peers, we have that in addiction. We call it peer support.
So about 14 years now, 14 years ago, my wife and I became burn supporters, peer supporters at the Washington Hospital Center.
Gotcha.
And it's through the Phoenix Society, which is a organization that focuses on burn survivors and their caregivers, the fire service, and we talk about resources. They show us resources and everything that's available to burn survivors.
Okay.
Which, believe it or not, there's a lot of us out there. A lot of people just don't know, haven't been exposed to it. And so there's a community of burn survivors that come together every other year at the World Burn Congress to learn about those resources and learn about the community. So we became involved through a Washington Hospital Center. So we go to the hospital center and visit with survivors and their families. So of course I'm visiting with the survivor and talking about that portion of it. My wife is visiting with the family members and talking about that portion of it. And we do this collectively, we do it together. She's a phenomenal supporter because she went through a lot with me, and she can often help someone see the vision.
Indeed.
Of what's to come. And don't be discouraged, even though it's hard. It's a difficult journey.
Right.
But there is light at the end of the tunnel.
No doubt.
And so we kind of do that. So with that being said, that's where we've been for the last 14 years.
Wow.
And recently we had the opportunity to share our story together. So we were doing it at the hospital, but then we had the opportunity to share our story together with burn survivors, and just the response from that really made me understand that the story transcends not just with trauma, physical trauma.
Right.
But we all go through some type of trauma, right?
Indeed, indeed.
You have the mental, you have the emotional, you have all of these other traumas. And it takes hearing a different perspective in order to be able to heal.
Indeed. Indeed.
So,
that's you're just speaking a big inspiration for the creation of the show, Recover the Ball, because, everything that you're talking about, I can show you a parallel to that in the addiction recovery community, where you have the families like in Al-Anon and things like that, speak to, that work with the people, with the families from the person who was, suffering from the addiction. And then you have folks like myself that talk to, we give peer support, and we talk directly to the person that's, going through the challenges of overcoming, and, maybe they come along the way, but and it's a big community of, some anonymous and some not so. I've joined with other organizations like Faces and Voices of Recovery who do a lot of advocacy work, But like you said, it's like, from when you were sharing that, it made me see that, like, no matter what, aspect of life or where you may have experienced some adversity, there's some support there. You know what I mean? And like I always tell my, the people that's watching the show, that you don't have to do this by yourself, that there is support out there. You know what I mean? And really the support is the same, because we, like you said, we all are going through the same thing, and just like sharing a different perspective. That's why I wanted this to be an all recovery network. You know what I mean?
That's
nice.
Like,
I know I can bring a lot of people on that can share their recovery from addiction, but like here now, I got Lieutenant Joe sharing his recovery from, from being, from his burn injuries and whatnot, and seeing how it's the same, just, maybe a little different because it's physical, but even sometimes in addiction, we sustain physical injuries as well, as far as our health. But the journey is almost, the same in terms of what you have to overcome mentally, and and that's just phenomenal. I'm glad to hear that, and glad that our listeners are hearing that, so that even if it's not addiction or being burned, that maybe whatever it is somebody's overcoming, they can begin to maybe tapping into a community, as you were saying, to get that support that they need.
Absolutely, and there's no shame in it. That's the biggest. There's no shame in getting the support.
Man, because shame and guilt will keep you back, man.
It will keep you back. It'll keep you stifled, and so I've been writing my book now for like 20 years.
It's okay. It's all right.
But there's a chapter that really resonates with me, and it's called the limitation of my scars. And so in that chapter, I talk about how the scars that I received from the burns kind of limit my mobility and things like that. So I have to adjust in order to still reach the goal that whatever I'm reaching for, right? So, but those limitations can keep us, if we allow them, from moving forward. And we have to be able to push through those limitations to get to wherever it is we're trying to go.
Indeed.
And so when we talk about the physical, right, we talk about the addiction, there are scars that come from the emotional scars that you can't see, right, that are not visible.
Right.
And those run deep.
Yes, indeed. Sometimes they were there before you even got the injury.
Oh my goodness! Yes. They were exacerbated by all of that.
Exactly.
I don't even know if that's the right word.
Yeah, you're right. That is the right word.
And it definitely will be. It can manifest itself into more addiction. It can manifest itself into anger. It can manifest itself into isolation.
No doubt.
Right?
Yes,
and isolation is worse than all of it.
Oh, man. Yeah. Then it's just you up in your own head, telling yourself, having the pity party of all times and whatnot.
And we can come up with some negative stuff to tell ourselves, right?
Yes, indeed.
We can do it. It doesn't take a lot, and we can just go deep on that.
Indeed.
And so, but yeah, so the purpose of that particular chapter, because I was going through those limitations, and so I started to write about it, and what it meant to be feel limited, and then what it meant to get past that. Okay. And go for that support. Yeah. Make those adjustments.
Indeed.
And I will share a lot of times about the acronym that I use called AWARE. And just being aware. So when you're a firefighter, you have to be aware of your situation, situational awareness of what's going on the fire ground, right? So that you can make the right decisions. And we need that same awareness in our life.
No doubt.
Attitude, right? That's the first A is for attitude. Like, how are you handling? What's your attitude about this? How are you going into this?
I love it.
The W is for will. Having a strong will to stand forth on whatever it is, or a strong will to move forward and get through the situation, making that conscious decision. The second one is for adaptability. So you have to be able to adapt to the situation. Things change. The world is changing. Everything is changing.
That's the only constant.
That's the only constant is change. So you're being able to adapt to that, and then you have the resilience part of it. That's what the R stands for, and then the E is for execute. So you have to be able to get through all of that, and then once you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, this is what I need to do, and you have to do it.
Okay.
You have, because without action, it's inaction, right?
Yes, indeed.
And one thing that I come to realize is, if you do something or you don't do anything, you're still doing something.
Doing something, yes.
You know what I mean? So
indeed, man, that's awesome. So you were saying you were giving the speeches, you and your wife, and you were at certain conventions, and then from there. So you're saying like you wanted to expand in terms of you realize you can touch some other people. So have you begun to start doing some speaking engagements, or what's been like your steps in terms of broadening your audience from your initial community, from where you come from, to sharing your story or sharing the awareness with other folks?
Right. Well, So yes, I'm in the process of really starting to get active and promoting that.
Okay.
Right. For many years I've sat back and waited. Inaction.
Trust me, I understand.
Sat back and with the expectation that something was going to come my way, right? And I've had so many mentors in my life saying, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I'm like, okay, but I suffer from this major disease, man. It's called procrastination.
I think all of us kind of struggle with that a little.
It's not like I struggle with it, okay? And so one thing that I also understand is your goals. We have a tendency to assassinate our goals. Assassination by procrastination, right? So
I like that.
Nothing gets done because we're sitting back waiting, or we're sitting back second guessing ourselves.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm starting to promote it more. Opportunities have come. I prayed about it first.
Nice. Yeah.
Prayed about it. I asked God for direction. I apologized to God for not moving when He opened the doors. And then I have promised Him that if He opens doors, I'm going to make sure that I walk through them.
Indeed.
And so how we are sitting here today was by a door that was open that I had no awareness of.
Nice.
But He opened the door, and here we are sitting and we're talking, and it's just the way He works. And I'm promising Him that I'm going to be obedient to Him. So
that's awesome. I mean, your story sounds very similar to mine, and just how I met Karen and Wesley. Just like you said, came with a friend. I had been procrastinating had an idea for a show. You know, I said I want to get started. I want to do these things, but I said, procrastinate, and sometimes procrastination shows up in the guise of perfectionism. I wanted to have everything just right. My ducks had to be, in a row before I could make that step. And then came, visited one of Karen's other shows with a good friend of mine, Lee, who's been on Recover the Ball, and it just, everything just seemed in place, and I just shared the vision, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to go ahead and get started with doing this show. And I think Vision and Purpose Media Production Studios would be the perfect place to do it.
Yes.
And I thought about a good friend of mine. She always said, why don't you throw your hat over the fence and then go figure out how to go get it?
That's a good one.
You know what? I'm going to do that. I'll throw the hat on.
I like that.
Karen, I'm ready. I'm going to get started. I didn't know how everything was going to come together, but I said, hey, let me throw my hat over the fence and figure out how to go get it. And on one of our previous episodes, I've been preaching to my Recover the Ball family is to, whatever your dream or your vision is, just start. Take a step.
Take a step.
And you'd be amazed at how your higher power will begin to work in your life and open up doors and help you to, take another step, and a step beyond that and whatnot. So it's like, as you sharing that, I was like, I feel like I'm sitting back in Vision and Purpose Media Studios with Karen and Lee that day. Once again, it was just like, okay, let me go ahead. Here's an opportunity. Let me go ahead and walk, because I've asked God for this. So why am I not taking advantage of it? There's no excuse.
No excuse.
No excuse.
No excuse.
Yeah.
When you have the God of the universe on your side, what else do you need? You know what I mean? Oh man.
He will provide.
He will provide. So one of my mentors, who may rest in peace, Dr. Miles Monroe, he says there's 4 types of change. The change that happens around us, the change that happens to us, the change that happens in us, and the change that we create. But in order for you to make change, you have to step.
Yeah.
You have to do something.
Goes back to that execute, that action you were talking about.
It goes back to that action, you execute. Yeah. So, that's where we are. I'm so excited to sit here and talk to you about this. What you're doing is amazing. It's going to help so many people.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad that you have walked into your vision and not just sat back and watched it on TV. You're actually doing something.
My procrastination had me watching for a long time.
That's all right. Perfect timing.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
It's when the timing is right, and it happens, and now the time is right.
Indeed.
And so I don't worry about what was before, because you can't do anything about it anyway.
Right. No, that's gone. That's water under the bridge
that's
at
history.
This point. So it's like, hey, let me just keep, taking a step forward. Man, I'm excited for the both of us, actually, and whatnot.
Absolutely.
And so what is your ultimate vision you see in terms of being able to? I know you say you got a book coming out.
Yes.
I'm excited to. I can't wait to read it once you get complete with that. So in terms of now you want to publish. What do you see in terms of the public speaking? What do you hope to create? What is the change you're looking to make in the world? What's the difference you're looking to make?
Wow. Okay.
I know that's a big,
It is.
it's a big one. But
it's a big one. And,
but it can even be small. Sometimes, our dream is just to, help out, our little ones. You know what I'm saying? Somebody immediate in our family, and from that first step, it grows from there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So and this is honest, and I hope this doesn't sound big-headed, because this is not a big-headed statement, but I sat back and I had a discussion with God about it, and there's a scripture that talks about the shepherd that went to look for the one sheep, right?
Okay.
He has 99, but one was lost, and he left the 99 to go find the one. Mm-hmm. I have a couple of guys that I have a podcast with. It's an audio podcast, and it's called Inside the Armor. And Inside the Armor, it's based off of Ephesians 6 and putting on the full armor of God. Okay. But what we always talk about is finding that one. So everything that we do on the podcast, no matter how we feel about it, it's just to find that one person, because you don't know who that one is.
That's right.
So when this conversation I had with God, I was like, okay, God, there's 7 billion people on this planet. I just want to be able to touch 1%. Just 1%. I don't know how I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
It's not my call. It's for you to do.
Right.
But if I can just touch 1% of the people to let them know that they have more power inside of them that you have given them than they can recognize right now. So that's my goal.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. When you said it, it made so much sense, because when I began to think about and reflect in terms of how sometimes they say it's like, only 1% or 10% of the population that's controlling the world, you know what I'm saying? That's feeding us our commercials, that's making all the money and whatnot. So if 1% of the world can, affect the whole world, I'm sure that we can make a switch and change by, giving a different message, or giving, like your story and our stories to a different 1% to see how we can impact and shift things for the better and whatnot. Man, I think that's phenomenal. I think that's what we exactly need and whatnot.
And the magic of it, to use that fallible word, is that 1% can change generations.
No doubt.
So we have it's exponential. I have no idea how impactful that's going to be in the long run. But when you think about, I'm going back to, and this, I don't know if this fits the conversation, but when Jesus came, he walked and he touched the people that were around him.
Right.
And it spread.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And here we are 2,000 years later, and it's still spreading.
Indeed.
1% is my goal.
I love Jesus, because he's to me, he's the greatest example of a revolutionary that that I can think of, just in terms of not always having the masses believing in you, or or the government believing in you, or whatever. But like you said, he touched those that were right in his path, and he was able to impact the world globally and whatnot. And I'm like, that is what better role model to have, what I'm saying, so that you don't sell yourself short on your own, dreams and vision and whatnot, that the divine is actually given to us. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we can scare ourselves out of our own dreams. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We say, well, like we were talking about that procrastination thing again. It was like, well, I had this, but I don't have that. So maybe, maybe I can't share my story or share my gift with someone. But, when you're divinely inspired, you got to continue to walk that walk and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, and understanding that it's not going to be easy, right?
Whew. Tell me about it.
But we already have what's inside of us to push through it.
Indeed.
We just have to believe it.
Indeed.
It's already there. We just have to believe it.
So what are some of the things, like when you're having that tough day or time, or what are some of the techniques that you use in terms of, kind of shaking off the tough, maybe those the doubting times, as they call it, conversations and whatnot.
Right.
Because like I could think of, even as I've started this journey with creating the show, there's still points that come up, the negative Nancy's or whatever to say, okay, you sure you could do this, Chris? And I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I mean, it just seems so obvious, you know what I'm saying? But even we're taking a step, sometimes the adversity within comes up, So I'm just curious as to maybe what someone else does when that, that doubt comes up. How do you handle it in terms of, your own journey?
So I've been blessed with a strong woman in my life, right?
All right, talk about it.
And so she is a force. I will talk about when I was going through this journey, right, with the burns and all of that. And I'm going to get to your point, but I just need to.
No. You
so while I was going through this journey, she was my girlfriend at the time. We weren't even married.
Okay.
And so she stuck by me through this whole. I mean, she was at the hospital every day. Okay. Sometimes two and three times a day, just coming to visit, make sure I was okay, getting me through on the other side of it. And I wasn't that great of a boyfriend. Okay. Right, and that's the honest to God truth. And but thank God now she has a dynamic husband.
That's right.
Program that she's running. Yeah. So I'm the only student in that program. Okay. Thank God. But she keeps me going.
Nice.
So when I'm in those doubtful moments, a lot of times I can rely on her to strengthen me. And even sometimes. She may have trouble encouraging me because I'm so deep in it. Okay. And it only can come out. I can only come out from God. He's the only one that can bring me out of that. And it takes sometimes where he'll just remind me of like, I brought you through this, man. Right. What are you talking about? Yeah. What are you going? What? And so.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yes.
How, like, you know what I'm saying? We've seen God work so much in our lives and bring us through a lot, but still. He's like, can you check my resume, please?
I haven't failed yet.
Right.
So yeah, that's one of the things. And then I'm often reminded when I look in the mirror to not look to try to see myself through His eyes and not my own. Right? So I also often would I'm looking at me and I'm saying, oh man, you can't do this, But when I look at myself through His eyes, it's like, man, you're more than a conqueror. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. You are my son. I have gifted you with all of these goodness inside of you. Right. What are you standing there complaining about? And so that's a lot of times what will help me get through.
Man, that is awesome.
Oh, and then surrounding yourself with good people.
Yeah.
All right. So
that's what I was getting a lot out of what you were saying.
I have prayer partners that nice. That I can reach out to, brothers that I've gone through a discipleship program with, and so we started the podcast I was talking about. We started. It started as a prayer call. We would do every Wednesday. Wow. And so when it went from the prayer call to us coming up with a topic to pray about each Wednesday. So we would, next week we're going to pray about this. Next week we're going to pray about that. Right. And then from there it morphed into, we should do a podcast about this because if we're going through this, there's a bunch of people that may be going through this. Right. Looking for that one. Right.
Oh man, going back to the theme.
Going back to the theme, looking for that one.
Man, that is awesome. That is awesome.
That's how it all. That's my journey. That's how I get through it.
Indeed, man. Lieutenant Joe, I appreciate you, coming on and sharing, your testimony really, and reminding, because no matter what guest I bring on, that is a constant theme, is that you're not in this by yourself. Yes. Get you a good partner, get you a good team. Because, nobody does it by themselves. Yes. Nobody overcomes anything by themselves. Sometimes we try to be, we have our Superman or, those capes on, right. Even just for ourselves. And even in helping somebody else, sometimes you need a team. A lot of times we do, So absolutely. I love the fact that, you have, your prayer warriors and your brothers that you call on to help you to continue to unfold on this journey, man. And yes. Man, you're doing an awesome job, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So do you have any socials or any ways that people can get in contact with you in terms of your speaking, or you continue to share your gifts?
Absolutely. So I am on social media. I'm not the greatest social media person, but I have my handles. I'm on LinkedIn, Joseph A. Morgan. I'm on Instagram, IG as Joe Morgan 1500. What else? Facebook, Joe Morgan 1500, and TikTok.
TikTok. Okay.
No, not TikTok. I'm sorry. X.
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 Right.
Joe Morgan 1500.
Right. Formerly Twitter.
Formerly Twitter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, I have all those, and I actually have a TikTok, but I haven't used it yet.
Yeah,
So
you're getting there.
I'm getting there. Yeah, eventually.
Indeed.
But,
We're on this journey together, brother.
Yes.
Man, I appreciate you sharing your story. So definitely check out Lieutenant Joe so you can get more of his story. And we're gonna be looking out for that book that's coming out soon. I can't wait to check that out.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And JoeMorganSpeaks.com. I forgot
Joe Morgan Speaks, yeah.
JoeMorganSpeaks.com. There we go. Okay, now I'm sorry.
Indeed. I want to shake your hand and thank you for coming out.
Man, I really appreciate you having me. Thank you
Cover
so
the
much.
Ball family, man. As always, I appreciate you coming and checking us out. We're gonna have some more phenomenal guests this month in June. And just keep checking us out, man. As you can see, nobody does this by themselves. It takes a team. That's been the theme for this podcast, and as you can see through most of them. So I want y'all to continue the journey. Remember, we're going to be airing the 2nd and 4th Monday of every month. So be looking out for this next episode coming in June. And I always appreciate y'all coming out and supporting Cowboy Chris at We Cover the Ball. See y'all in a couple of weeks. Peace.
Peace.